We've spent the last few weeks in this series called Potential, and it's all about dating, and that brings me to this question. Do you know someone who throws common sense out the window when it comes to their dating life? Sometimes it's easy for us to throw logic out the window because we want someone. This can be funny and no big deal when friends do this and things work out. But other times it can be sad and people can end up hurt. It is easy to think things like, why would you do that? Why would you settle? Don't you know how this is going to end? Don't you know how it always ends? But sometimes the emotional entanglement of a relationship can make it tough to see things clearly. Although we can see it when it's happening to others around us, we often don't always see it for ourselves. See, we all tend to have the same general rules when it comes to dating. Don't date a cheater or someone who brings you down or pulls you away from your values. But when we actually start catching feelings for someone, the pressure to make decisions gets a little higher. And those rules tend to become more flexible. And these views can bring us to a place where we make less than great decisions. We're going to look at a story from Scripture together that involves the most famous king of Israel. His name was David. The event we're looking at today took place during a war with the Ammonites, one of Israel's greatest enemies. During that time, when a nation went to war, it was normal for the king to fight alongside their troops. But this time, David decided not to be like other kings. In the spring of the year, when kings normally go out to war, David sent Joab and the Israelite army to fight the Ammonites. By choosing to stay home, David was essentially sending this message to his troops. I want you to take care of the hard stuff, but I'm going to hang back at home. And that was just the beginning. One afternoon, David was walking around on the rooftop of his palace, where he could look out over the city that he rules. And all of a sudden, he notices a beautiful woman bathing on her rooftop, which might seem weird to us because who has a bathtub on their roof? But David never should have been on his rooftop to begin with. The most dangerous place for you to be is any place you should have never been in the first place. See, David wants to know more about her. It's obviously an abuse of power, but David is the king. And in that culture, the king gets what the king wants. And in this case, he wants her. The most dangerous person for you to be with is any person you should have never been with in the first place. He sends out his men to find out about her, and this is what they report. She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. The messenger didn't just tell David her name. He made sure that David knew Bathsheba was somebody's daughter and that she was somebody's wife. But David didn't care about that. His judgment was clouded by his desires, his hormones. He wasn't thinking clearly about what was right or what was honoring other people. It's pretty easy to see that David made a few assumptions. 1, I'm an exception to the rule. 2, what I want isn't that bad. And 3, I can deal with whatever happens as a result. David seems to think he is an exception to the rule, but he isn't. He's far from it. David isn't above right and wrong. There are very real consequences when we make poor decisions. David could have stopped, owned up to his blatant selfishness, his sin, and things wouldn't have gotten worse. But David decides to call Uriah, Bathsheba's husband, home from war to try and get Uriah to sleep with her. But when Uriah gets home, he doesn't feel like it's right to sleep in his own bed while his friends and fellow soldiers are out fighting a war. So now David is desperate. He's desperate to hide what he's done. He gives an order for Uriah to go back to war. But this time, David wants Uriah stationed at the front lines where the fighting was the most dangerous. Because if David couldn't cover up Bathsheba's pregnancy, then Uriah had to be taken out of the picture completely. And that's what happened. Uriah was killed. And afterward, David made Bathsheba one of his wives. Now we listen to this story today and wonder, what was David thinking? These are terrible decisions. And you aren't wrong. They really are terrible decisions. What we need to bring back into focus is the sobering reality that the value and respect and humanity of Bathsheba is diminished. It is her story and her pain that echoes to teach us an invaluable lesson. Over and over again, David was asking, what can I get away with? How can I avoid consequences? And because he was the only person speaking into his decisions, he did things that he knew he shouldn't. To such a degree that Bathsheba's value, well-being, and feelings seem to never even be a consideration. When we believe we're the exception to the rule, or we feel like we can't be okay without a relationship, we can end up justifying bad decisions or bad situations. But the truth is this: the pressure to be with someone can cause you to settle for anything. And we cannot lose sight of this. Settling for anything can mean that all the while, fading in the background is a person, someone with a valuable life on the other side of our misplaced desire that we may be hurting deeply. When it comes to dating, it helps to be honest with yourself and ask the right questions. Sometimes seeing things clearly can take someone being real and honest with us, even when it isn't easy. So this week, I want to encourage you to do 3 things. First, find someone to speak into your dating life. This could be a wise friend, it could be your small group leader, it could be your pastor, it could be a trusted adult. Think about some people in your life who you trust, and then identify someone who will be completely real with you. Second, ask them to help you see areas where you're not honest with yourself or facing the truth in your life. This part isn't easy. It might even be scary. And it isn't like you have to share every deepest, darkest secret to start, but you do have to start somewhere. And chances are they'll be able to see things just by knowing you. And third, listen to them. Even if you find someone you trust and they have all the wisest things to say, that wisdom is wasted if you don't listen. So make a decision to always give this person a chance to say what they see, to always be honest with you, even when it's something you may not want to hear. Because if you don't want to hear their thoughts on the situation, there's a good chance that you really need to. The reality is that all of us can end up a million places that we didn't want to be by accident, all because we never thought to ask tough questions and make difficult decisions. Remember, the pressure to be with someone can cause you to settle for anything.